but that patterning of the movement seems to be the most optimal. Some of the best deadlifters in the world use those cues to be better at deadlifts. So with that being said, it's most likely because you're missing a few things and you don't understand the concepts of how to perform a hinge properly, and we're going to be covering that today. So keep an eye out. Let's go along, try to address where you are, and tell me what problem you were dealing with down in the comments. Yeah, you're going to be weak at it. You don't do it, okay? I'm not afraid to say it. It's true. If you don't do something, you're not going to be good at it. Unless you're naturally born talented. In that case, you're not my friend. Oh my goodness, I don't want to deadlift because my back hurts. Oh my goodness, I'm going to hurt my back. Everything I do, I feel it in my lower back. Wah. Quit complaining. Deadlifts aren't a scary thing. Deadlifts aren't a dangerous thing. Everything that we do in the world is relatively dangerous, depending on how you look at it. Driving, walking, going to the store, everything. Think about the world as a whole right now and how crazy of a place that it's become. Yes, that was a really dark turn to take. Let's go ahead and put some light into it. Deadlifts aren't a horrible thing. You're not having a hard time with it just because you're weak. Yeah, you're going to be weak at it. You don't do it, okay? I'm not afraid to say it. It's true. If you don't do something, you're not going to be good at it. Unless you're naturally born talented. In that case, you're not my friend because you were genetically gifted, and it upsets me because I don't have that gift. All right? All right, I'm jealous. I hope you understand. With that being said, it's most likely because you're missing a few things and you don't understand the concepts of how to perform a hinge properly, and we're going to be covering that today. So keep an eye out. Let's go along, try to address where you are, and tell me what problem you were dealing with down in the comments. Let's cover the basics real quick. What is a deadlift? A deadlift is a hinge movement, meaning that the torso is decreasing the angle at our hips, coming closer to the femur as we go down, and the goal is to pick something up off the ground. Now, there are a lot of variations of deadlift. Some don't even touch the ground. RDL, straight leg deadlift, single leg deadlift, rear foot elevated deadlift, whole bunch of other stuff. And it doesn't have to be called a deadlift. It could be a Romanian deadlift, straight leg deadlift. It could just be called a hinge, okay? There's a lot of people, deadlift is a very scary word, so we just call it a hinge. If I call it a hinge, will you quit crying in the corner, please? Thank you. All right, you don't have to. Dry your eyes, okay? Dry them off. Dry them off just a little bit. We don't have to be upset at a word for the simple fact that it's the same exact thing. Now, let's go ahead, cover some problems with the hinge or the deadlift. Here are 3 baseline cues for importance of setting up a deadlift. There are a lot more cues, but again, we don't need to over cue anything in particular. So here are the 3 baseline cues that you need to be focusing on. 1, the bar should be over the mid part of your foot. This is going to help you keep everything in line based off where your center of gravity is, based off how far you're hinging over, where your knee position is, hip position is, but that should be the starting part, is the bar should be midway across the foot. And that's not the front part of the ankle to the toes, that's heel to toe, okay? So mid part of the foot, it's about roughly an inch to inch and a half away from your shin over your foot. That's roughly where it'll be. Number 2, your hands should be grabbing the bar. That one should be obvious, but I want to cover that one real quick because I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Okay? All right. The last one is you need to be bracing your core like nobody's business, like someone's about to hit you with the most nasty uppercut right to the gut. And you need a, if you have a hard time bracing your core, go grunt real hard, cough, go yell a little bit. You'll feel your diaphragm work real hard. You'll feel all the core musculature on the anterior side of your body. It will tighten, transverse, internal. All the other number right here, because I will go on to depth about it later, should feel really tight. Now, there's extra stuff that we should add, but if the core is braced, we shouldn't feel anything in the lower back that's going to help keep the back very straight, very flat. Now, if there's a little bit of flexion, that's okay, but I do mean a little bit of flexion. I don't want to say that because you're going to be like, yeah, if it moves a little bit, and it'll move a lot. You don't understand what a little bit versus a lot looks like. Here's a very good example versus a little versus a lot. Okay? Understand that? Those are 3 cues just to start out with to perform the hinge, the deadlift. The next thing that we want to do is this is the cue of the action, the concentric motion of the exercise, which is going to be push away from the floor. It doesn't make any sense. Everyone thinks that a hinge or a deadlift is a pulling movement. It is. This cue is just going to allow you to understand what you're trying to do. You are going to push away from the ground. Pretty simple, right? You want to get a little bit more complicated or a little bit more advanced? You want to push away from the ground while still holding onto the bar, bracing your core, and of course, where's the bar starting? Good. I'm glad you understand. You're pushing it away from the ground, and if you want a little bit more advanced technique for this one, not much more advanced, a little advanced, you also want to try to break the earth apart from between your feet. So feet will go down, but also out. That's going to get a little bit more glute recruitment, helping you drive your hips through to get that bar up. Step number 4, this one's pretty easy. This is the lockout portion. Everyone misunderstands. They want to lean back when they do it, and that's because they're overemphasizing, like, I need to get it up, I need to get it up. You just need to stand tall. Just stand tall. If you stand tall, you'll be locked out. A lot of people will stop right here and then start going back down again, or they will overemphasize getting the bar up, being like, yeah, trying to use their body weight to help leverage the bar to get into a nice top position. Now, after you've made it all the way to the top, you want to be able to descend the bar back to the ground without overcomplicating the movement. You want to control it, but you also, depending on the variation that you were doing at the hinge, the deadlift, you need to make sure that you are following those same principles. So if it's a deadlift, you're going to go down, get to your knees, and then add that knee flexion in. If it's a Romanian deadlift, let it down as a Romanian deadlift with control, of course. So however you got it up, repeat it in the opposite direction, back down. Just reverse the movement, but control it. Don't drop it. That's just more of a competition rule thing, but also you develop and adapt really well during the eccentric portion of a movement, which is the negative, as the gym community mostly knows it as. So if you're having an issue with that, you need to lighten the bar, because if you fought for your life to get it up and you can't control it back down, well, then you're having a hard time. Yes, your core should still be braced at this point. If you're not bracing it, yes, your lower back's gonna feel it. You will get hurt eventually. That's why people are scared of this. So how about you just listen and do it right? Sorry, I didn't mean to yell. I have some more tissues over there. Go wipe your eyes. Let's finish this, okay? Hurry. Hustle, hustle, come on. 3 common mistakes that happen here is people yank the bar instead of push it away from the ground, for the simple fact if you yank it, you will get a lot of shear force in your spine. You can get hurt a lot easier that way, so don't yank the bar. You want to pull the slack out of the bar. That is another cue that we'll cover eventually, but you don't need to be yanking the bar, right? Right? Okay, you understand? Good. The next thing is, if you overemphasize any one particular cue without learning the basic 3 that we just covered, then you're going to have a hard time doing it. Because if you start adding more cues in before you've mastered the basic safe 3, you're going to end up being like, oh, I didn't brace, and you're not going to pull it up. You didn't grab the bar right, so you're going to feel like you can't break it off the ground. Are you getting what I'm saying here? Are you getting what I'm saying? Okay. This is one that I see a lot as well, is people will squat the bar. So they'll get really low to grab the bar. They'll lower their hips way too low, and they will squat it. Now, the difference between a squat and a hinge is heavily dependent on the angle of your torso to the ground, as well as knee to hip. So if you have a lot of flexion in the knee and a moderate flexion in the hip, then that's more, it's gonna be a lot more of a squat. So if you got a lot of flexion in the knee and moderate in the hips versus a lot in the hips and moderate in the knee, that's gonna be more of a squat. Don't squat your deadlift. That's why they have squats. Just do your hinge, all right? Deadlifts are not dangerous. Poor bracing, poor technique, and overthinking are. That's what's dangerous. That's what makes this dangerous. And if you're picking the wrong load that you shouldn't be doing, you're ego lifting with this one, yes, it's a more dangerous exercise in relation to others based off how heavy that you make it. But if you make your bench press too heavy and you go to do it, yeah, you're gonna, we've all seen those videos. Don't be that person. Same with squat. People collapse under the bar. Pick your load right. Do not ego lift. Everyone likes a good load, all right? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. It's not dangerous. You've just been a little bitty baby about it. So, do them or don't do them. They don't pertain to your goals. Don't do them. But you should do them. It's an actual, like, functional, natural movement that our bodies are meant to do, which is pick stuff up off the ground. Do you really want to have to squat down the rest of your life just to pick something up, being like, oh, careful. You're going to bend over at some point to pick something up. Learn the hinge, the deadlift. So I hope that helps. These are just some basic principles. I mean, as far as cues go for a deadlift, the deadlift does need to be an A-B movement. It does need to be bending the bar. You need lat engagement. Your scapula need to be retracted. Traps need to be engaged. You need to make sure that the angles of the hips and the knees are right. The stance is based off your hip posture. What's your mobility, your recovery like? Where are you progressing from where you're currently at? You need to make sure that you're taking a real deep breath and then going down into position, grabbing up, grabbing in, or if you need to, you can take that deep brace after you went down. I find that a little bit more comfortable than taking the brace before I get up, because it takes me a second to make sure everything's ready and I'm mentally ready and my nervous system's ready for me to get into the deadlift. So I can brace up here with a nice deep breath, by the way, if you're bracing, and then brace. The more pressure you have pushing down to the diaphragm, the lungs are more expanded, the more oxygen that you have, the more pressure is in here, the more you can take load, especially for the lower back. You don't want any pressure going on there. So the harder you brace, the more support that the lumbar spine has. You want to make sure that you're nice and tight above all. And then when you go in, you pull the slack out of the bar, make sure you hear that little clink. And then you begin the other cues, such as push away from the ground. And then when you're bringing it up, what you're doing is you're using your knees like a squat form till you get to the knees, and then those glutes and hamstrings really, really, really kick in to dominate that movement to pull the hips through. And then as you go back down, you hinge, you get to the knees, and then you can squat down the rest of the way. Now, I use those terms because people understand them more than the other terms, but that patterning of the movement seems to be the most optimal. Some of the best deadlifters in the world use those cues to be better at deadlifts. So, yes, there are an immense amount of cues for deadlift, but these are the basic three. And I want you to understand that things do not have to be complicated. And I want to help you understand how everything needs to work. Now, remember, this all comes in steps. And we'll get there eventually. Just trust the process. Get better at it. If you have questions, let me know. I want to be able to help. The more questions that you give me, the more I can help. The more information I have, the more specific I can be. So, do we have an understanding? Thank you. All right. I will see you all in the next video. Thank you again for being here. I hope you enjoy me. Validate me, please. Thanks. All right. Stay growing and stay smiling. And of course, as always, stay silly. I'll catch you all in the next video. Till then, later. And of course, we like to do a little shimmy. Little shimmy. Did I say enema?